is his work finished, and then does he make a recommendation to the commission, or?
No, not today. So,
No, but in the end, when the
Okay.
decision whether this is gonna be permitted or not, is it the judge's decision, or is it the corporation commission?
the way it works at the commission is like this. The ALJ, they used to be called trial examiners, and ALJ is an administrative law judge, and they are the presiding person in the room during all the hearings and the evidence and all that. If this goes to an actual full protest, like multi-day protest with lots of evidence, they sit there, they listen to all the evidence, they examine all the exhibits. The lawyers will argue about, evidentiary issues, and, you should not admit this, you shouldn't do that, you shouldn't let him say this, kind of like on TV.
Mm-hmm.
And then at that point, the hearing concludes. And all this is on the record with a court reporter, and it's recorded. And the ALJ, in something complicated like this, is very likely to order a transcript. Say, I want everything that was said typed up, what the court reporter was doing. Because I need to be able to review it. I can't remember everything that was said today, or over the last 3 days. They will take, by commission rule, it's supposed to be 30 days, but sometimes it just takes longer. The ALJ is allowed to review the transcript, review the evidence, and the ALJ today that called the docket was Elizabeth Cates. She may not be the judge that actually ends up hearing all this. And then they will give a decision and render a report. And it's just called the report of the administrative law judge. And that report will summarize all the evidence of all the parties that was presented. Then they'll say, I recommend. Now that's the key word I was getting. Said all that to say this. The ALJ recommends that A, B, and C happen. Either the application be granted, or the application needs to be modified, but I'll grant it, or I'll deny it outright, or whatever the decision happens to be. From that point, if people aren't happy about what happens, it can be appealed, and we call those exceptions. And then that goes to an appellate referee, and that is, there's only one appellate, oil and gas appellate referee, and her name is Patricia McQuiggan. Her office is actually right over there. And then she gets to hear oral arguments. No more evidence is really presented. At that point, it's oral arguments about they got it wrong because of X, Y, Z. And then at that point, she will do the same thing. She will review transcripts, render a report, and then it goes to the commissioners. If it's yet again, a field, you can ask for oral arguments before the commissioners. And if that happens, the commissioners, which it's somewhat rare for that to happen. It's not common for that to happen. The commissioners will listen. It's usually a very abbreviated hearing, 30 minutes maybe, very short for something that's so technical. And then they get to make a decision. So the way it works is ALJ, referee, commissioners, what the ALJ says is a recommendation. It's not like a district court judge where the district court judge says, this is ordered and we're done here. An ALJ makes a recommendation and nothing actually happens until the commissioners enter an order, a final order determining everything. So I think that answers your question, is when the judge is done, is that the decision being made or someone else make it? Technically, the commissioners make it. The commission doesn't act except by order of the commissioners. So,
Are the commissioners present when this testimony and this
no.
process takes place?
No, that's the job of the administrative law judge. And they build the transcript and all the exhibits, and they end up with this big, and it's called the record. And the record ends up being, for something like this, it will be fairly large probably. And then the commissioners have lawyers that look at that specifically, and then they'll make an informed decision at that point. But the commissioners don't sit in the room for the evidence portion of it.
Did we start thinking the name for the protest in case some of us want to leave?
Well, yeah, if you need to leave, we have your Q&A about to start, I think, with the mid-con folks. So I don't know what would be better if you got started on that with people who have technical knowledge, or if you want to start bringing names and addresses.
Or if you want to, we can
How
pass
about
it
we pass it around? Would that
But
be
I
better?
just ask you write legibly, that's all. We know. And put down your name, your address, your email address, your mailing address and your email address. And
Matthew Allen.
let me start this by, my name is John Reed, and I'm a lawyer representing MidCon in this, but I'm the one who filed, put together and filed it. We have representatives of MidCon here who are going to try to answer some of your questions about what's going on. I know that a lot of you got this packet in the mail. It's something that's probably very foreign to you. You don't know what it is. And so I fully understand your concern about what in the world's going on. And we want to try to get your concerns, see if we can address it, see if we can stop. The unknown is scary, and so we're going to try to make this known to you what's happening. Now, this is it's a secondary recovery operation. It's a water flow. These things are, and it's in a specified formation called the boat arc. And in a very general concept, we have a formation that has had production for an extended period of time. The pressure in the reservoir has gone down, and therefore the production from the reservoir has also dropped. Pressure is the thing that drives the production. And in a very laymanistic way of saying this, and we'll have an engineer who can talk about it more specifically, and that is, in a water flood, you put water into the formation, you try to increase the pressure that's there, and you're never going to get it back to where the pressure was originally, and that water also acts as a sweeping mechanism to move the oil to producing wells. And so the water will go in, come back out, go back in, it can be cycled. So this is, it is not a disposal operation. It is not like the disposal wells you hear about that dispose of into the Arbuckle, where there's a very much of a concern that people think that the disposal in the Arbuckle induces earthquakes because of the relationship of the Arbuckle to the granite. This is not that kind of operation at all. And this is not like horizontal drilling where you have large fracture stimulations in the well. This is not that at all. And I know somebody asked me about that. This is not that.
So it's all vertical.
Right now it's all vertical. Now I asked.
I'm talking about in the future. Is it all going to be vertical in the future?
The answer is right now yes, but that doesn't mean that at some point in time they say we may drill a horizontal well in the formation. But again, we're not talking about the type of horizontal drilling you would have for like they have in the Mississippi and in northwestern Oklahoma, where you put on these enormous fracture stimulations in there. You're talking about a depleted reservoir here. That already has some natural fractures in it. Now, that is a general background of kind of what it is, and maybe what it's not. And so, I want, yeah.
Yeah, I think my greatest concern is groundwater contamination. You know, a lot of us, we got wells there.
Sure.
We depend on our wells. We drink water out of our wells.
Absolutely.
And two questions I want to ask: groundwater contamination, the possibility of that, and the other one is, y'all going to be getting water? Where are you getting it from, and how's that going to affect the water tables around the surrounding area?
I can tell you about in terms of the protecting fresh water. You've had operations out there for an extended period of time. You may not know it, because they may be hidden behind trees.
Oh, I've seen it.
Yeah, well,
I've seen it.
And there hasn't been, to best of my knowledge, any freshwater contamination.
Yeah.
And that's over an extended period of time.
But you know, around the state you hear of horror stories of ground contamination and this and that, and that just, you know, that concerns you.
No, and yeah, it would. It concerns MidCon. Because if they go out there and contaminate the fresh water, you talk about the liability they have, it would be unbelievable.
You know, taking away water, it sounds like you're going to be using millions and millions
Well,
of gallons.
let's talk about the protection of fresh water first, and then we'll go to and where the supply wells are going to be and what the formation may be. In terms of the fresh water, the rules of the commission require that there be something called surface casing set that would seal off by cement and by casing seal off the fresh water so it is not adversely impacted. And the putting water into the boat ark, now an under pressured reservoir, is not going to fracture up into the freshwater zones. I mean, it would be, we don't want to do that, because that destroys the flood. And so the fresh water is going to be treated or protected by virtue of the casing we have in these wells, just like they are now. The fresh water is protected right now. And putting the water into the boat ark, it will make it impossible for that water to get out of the boat ark up into the freshwater zone. And we'll also talk about how we're going to handle the water at the surface and how we're going to take care of that so we don't pollute the surface. Now, in terms of where the water is going to come from, some of it's going to come from the boat ark. We're going to be recycling the water in the boat ark. And we will have some supply wells, and I'll let Rex Patel tell you where that's coming from if we know at this moment in time. Hopefully that kind of addresses some of it. I know.
Well, what kind of depth are y'all talking about out there? I mean, how deep are you going in?
Let me let Rex take this. He'll be more specific.
Sure. My name's Rex McPhail. I'm a petroleum engineer. I work for Mustang Energy. I'm responsible for kind of helping put this flood together. To answer your question, the boat ark formation, I believe, is approximately 8,000 feet deep. Our supply water that we would be using for a source of injecting into the formation would be, we have identified, I think it's even in the application. It's a shallower sand, probably around 3,000 feet. I can't remember the name of it, but our geologist has identified a formation which he thinks there's going to be plenty of water for that purpose. We would probably have 2 water supply wells, maybe one on the north end and one on the south end of the unit. As John said, on our injection wells, the commission requires fresh water supply and it's cemented, and then there's a second string of casing that would go down and cover all of the boat ark interval that we're wanting to inject into. And so it's protected in 2 ways. And then the commission also restricts the injection pressure. We can only inject at a certain pressure so as to ensure, usually it's below the frac gradient of the reservoir, so we're not fracking the reservoir with our injection water. And then the commission also imposes the number of barrels a day that we can inject into our injection wells. So these commission established those rules over a long period of time, and they feel that they're more than sufficient to help protect fresh water.
Let me say also that this is the application for the unitization. There will be other applications for these injection wells that people get notice of, where the specifics of those injection wells will be addressed. But there's a fairly standard way of doing that.
I understand to some extent what you're saying to me, but I feel like I'm one of those people that hears and on the news or reads about these kinds of issues, and I don't know that I really fully understand what you're saying to me. So what I would like you to do very basically is, what are you doing here? And I'm really asking you to dumb it down. Because I'm going to protest at this point because I don't know what you're doing. And I get what you're saying, and people are asking lots of questions and they have concerns, but a lot of times it's because we just don't understand what you're really doing, and we don't want to say that we don't understand. So I don't, and can you give me a very dumbed down version? You're using terms like BODAR. I don't even know what that means, other than the fact that I've seen this. I mean, really, please.
So here's this isn't perfect, but here's my swimming pool analogy.
Thank you.
We're going to pretend, everybody's familiar with how the swimming pool works. We're gonna pretend that the swimming pool is our formation where the oil and the water exists. And what we do, and I'm gonna then compare it to what you might hear on the news about earthquakes. What we do is a typical swimming pool. We've got a drain, we're taking water out of the drain, it's going to a pump, or it goes through a filter and gets cleaned, and then gets re-injected back into the swimming pool. So the swimming pool pretty much stays the same. It's just that same process. That's the process that we do in simplified terms. If you want to compare that to what we're hearing about on the news about earthquakes, is still got the swimming pool, and we're going to call that the Arbuckle Formation. It's down deeper, sitting right on top of the basement rock. But we've got the Arbuckle Formation. There's no drain in this swimming pool. We just have water going into the swimming pool. And so over time, the swimming pool maybe gets full, and the water, it goes somewhere. It goes into fractures, big faults, or, that's what it's a very simplified thing. So when the water goes into the faults, and it makes it slippery, and the faults can slip. So
are you doing it for the purpose of finding oil? I mean, what's the point of this? I mean, what is the end goal here? What result are you trying to achieve by putting in these injections?
Oh, okay. So the oil's already been found.
Okay.
It was found back in the 70s and 80s. And these wells in the field that we are 20 or 30 years old. And a lot of them are making 1 barrel a day now. And they originally made 100 barrels a day or more. So the oil's been produced. There's the reservoir energy that helps get the oil out of the ground is gone. When you shake up a Coke bottle and you let everything gushes out at once. Well, that happens with oil fill. It just takes longer. So you're stuck there with a half full Coke bottle, but there's no way to get the Coke out. So we're injecting water into the bottom of the Coke bottle and pushing oil up to the opening so that we can then get the oil out. That's the oil. Question?
Yeah. Okay, you're gonna push water down there to push oil out, so you're gonna get both water and oil to come out.
Yes, sir.
Okay, how you gonna process that to separate it? I mean, what's gonna be to get a final product? I mean, you're gonna push that oil and water out of there, so you gotta refine it somehow. What are you gonna do in that area of refining and then coming up with a finished product? Is that gonna be done locally there, or?
Sure. Usually in a water flood, you would have, right now, for every well that's out there, there's probably a tank battery. And I don't know how many tank batteries are out there right now, but, there's probably more than 20. So in that, for each tank battery, the oil in the water is going from the well to this tank battery. And, I don't know if I'll just try to. And it goes through, first it goes through a oil water separator, and the oil is separated from the water, and the gas is also separated out, and gas goes to a flow line and gets sold to the gas company. The water goes to a water holding tank, and then the oil goes to a oil storage tank. And that's the basic setup that
You gonna have one, or how many of them you gonna have around there?
So what we would hope to do to make it more efficient, and that's one of the reasons you do these big units, is eliminate those 20 separate tank batteries, and we would have 2. That's what we're planning, one in the north, I think, and one toward the south. And the same process would happen. It's just that you would have, 20 wells going to, I don't know what number, but say 20 wells going to one tank battery instead of one well.
Now, waste byproduct, what about waste byproduct? I mean, you gonna have the water and all that, and then what, are you gonna recycle it and reuse it, or?
Sure, so the waste products are the same thing. There's oil, gas, and water. The gas gets sold, usually in a water flood, the gas decreases just because of the nature of the way the fluids interact with each other, but it would be solved. The water would get re-injected into be distributed to the injection wells and get re-injected back into the formation. The oil would be solved.
And it's important, you mentioned the fact there may be just 2 tank batteries opposed to 20. And the significance of that is if you have your copy of the application center attached to it is the last page is a copy of the area we're talking about. And in that area, currently, there's a lot of 80-acre spacing, drilling and spacing. You may not know what that means, but it means that it would cover the Bodark Formation or the Hunton, which encompasses the Bodark, or something called the Meisner-Hunton, which encompasses the Bodark. And on each of those 80-acre units, right now, people who have oil and gas rights could go out and drill a well on each and every 80-acre tract out there. And with the unit, what it does is now I'm gonna say this, is that each of those 80-acre units unitizes the production, the interest of the parties within each of those 80-acre tracts. If I drill one well on an 80-acre tract, and I own an 80-acre tract, regardless of whether the well's located on me or not, I get to share in production from that well. But if somebody drills next door to me on an 80-acre tract, I don't get to share in that production because I don't own in that 80-acre tract. This unitization communitizes the interest of the parties throughout the whole area, the 4,000 plus acres. So if in this unitization, you can see this, if a well is drilled up here in the north and I own down here in the south, I still get to share in production from that well because that is spread throughout the unit, even though it's not located on it. And therefore, in that development process, I just need 2 tank batteries. I don't need, a tank battery for every 80-acre unit. So it actually decreases the impact on the surface of what we're doing by doing that. So that is one of the big effects of the unitization. Everybody gets to share in production from any well in this 4,000 acres.
But you're talking about mineral right ownership, not surface right.
Right, surface owner, well, yeah,
Correct.
That's right.
That's if you own the mineral rights.
That's right.
I own a small piece, and I've been able to identify what I think a surveyor has come in and put what you might call an injection well on my small piece of property. And I'm curious to know what kind of surface rights as an owner I have for that small piece of property with you guys coming in and disrupting my surface.
Well, there's a
very
Surface
small
Damage
piece.
Act that you would be able to assert rights under. But that's not a corporation commission
Right.
thing. And they have to be concerned about that too. I mean, in terms of your rights.
That's just the surface.
I wanna know how many new wells you're gonna drill.
All right, get to that, and Rex can answer that. You had a question, if it's something I said or something?
Well, I have 3 questions. So, okay.
We won't forget your.
I understand what you're doing. So, what are the risks? I mean, everybody says earthquakes, water damage, okay? What are the risks to me, the citizen, the property owner, the homeowner? What if I do protest this? You mentioned the company with the lawyer, and as I said to you,
Yeah.
I'm the individual.
Mr. Cottingham is representing a company that is formally protested.
Yeah, I represent 2, as it turns out.
Okay.
You guys have drawn, anyway, it's like honey. At any rate, I represent 2 owners of working interests, that is, they're oil and gas lessees. We filed a protest, so that's where we are. So I have to run. Right, John, I'll call it.
So what if I protest this as an individual citizen, property owner, homeowner, what impact am I really gonna have? The 3rd question is, what is the purpose of this hearing specifically? I've been notified, so what's the point of this hearing? What are we really doing here? in very dumbed down terms, please.
But, let me see if I can do, I think I can double down.
I appreciate it immensely.
There's a statute, that authorizes doing this. And it provides in there what you have to allege, what you have to say in the application, which is what you've got. And it also tells you what you have to prove when you go to hearing. And so what will happen is we will have a hearing in front of administrative law judge, like the one that was called the docket. And we will be required to put on evidence through expert witnesses that would be showing we got good notice on everybody. And that what we're proposing to do is going to work as best we can determine now. And that, more importantly, that the cost of doing this operation is not going to be more than the value we're going to get from the oil that we're going to recover. And therefore, and that we have to treat this whole area as this giant unit, because individually, if we have these 80-acre units out there, you could never develop and recover the remaining oil by just doing it if you had 80 acres.
Which is what you mean by unitization.
Yeah, the unitization is
You're bringing the group together.
bringing the group together, and when I say communitizing, same thing. Unitize, communitize.
Correct.
Same concept. So everybody becomes an owner in this, and we have to have the commission say, yes, we agree that what you're doing falls within the statute. We have to prove that. The burden's on us to prove that. So and that's what the hearing would be about.
I would like to inject something for you. You know, if we don't like the process, we can always get a class action from all the property owners. So there's multiple additions out there that's affected by this activity. So we, as homeowners, our recourse is to go through the process of protesting, and then, if we don't like what Mid-Continent's doing, we can get the proper authorities, everybody get together and file a class action against them.
Well, I'd have to disagree with that, because
Well, we can do,
you can do what you want to, but in terms of the, this is a corporation commission matter.
yeah, but if the results of your activity creates, say, earthquakes, and you said it won't create any, but the thing of it is, would you give a contract to all property owners that 100% guarantee if there's any increase in seismic activity, that you will be held totally 100% responsible to the homeowner?
Of course not, nobody do that.
No, they won't. And so you can say whatever you want to, but you can't prove anything you're saying.
Right, and I mean, you're 100% correct. Words are cheap.
Yes,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
You know, and I'm still not convinced that even injection of the Arbuckle will cause an earthquake.
Well, but
But
scientists don't agree with each other. So whether you're a petroleum engineer or whatever, I can get a petroleum engineer who disagree with him.
Well,
See, we could sit here and argue both.
and we're not here to argue.
No.
We're not here to argue. We're trying to try to explain.
Right, exactly.
And I sure don't want to get into an argument
No.
about it. It's unnecessary. But you may have some other forms of relief that you could go to. No question.
Yeah.
And about the earthquake thing, just knowing the overall scientific way it works, you say, I don't think that's going to cause an earthquake.
But we've already had it.
Well, I know, but not because of a water flood operation.
How do we know?
Because there's no water flood operation that I know that would, because the
But
theory
there's
behind
no water
water
flow operations that weren't singularly caused.
Well, because the concept of a water flood is you don't create enough pressure to cause anything to move or otherwise. But we don't need to argue
I
about
know,
that.
we could get into gas, pressurization of gas.
The question is, did we get yours?
Okay, so I understand the purpose of the hearing,
Okay.
I know what you're doing now.
Okay.
So what impact do I have if I decide that I wanna protest this? And right now, I protest on the grounds that I don't know what is going on
Sure.
here, so I have to learn more. So what impact do I have, and what are the risks to me, the private citizen who owns my little home on my little 1 acre plot, as a result of what you're about to do?
Well, if we take what impact would you have on the process if you became a protester? I'm gonna be brutally honest with you, and that is, they will listen to you. They will give you the opportunity to say whatever you wanna say. But you're gonna have to present sworn testimony that would contradict the experts presented by Mid-Con, to be truthful with you. So to be effective, you go out and you hire a lawyer, you go out and you hire expert witnesses to come in. That's really it.
So the fact that people are expressing concerns, and I don't know enough about the science behind this to prove earthquakes, to prove water contamination. You know, there could be others out there that we don't even know. Those are the first two that come up. So I don't, the reality is, I understand what you're doing. I get the purpose of the hearing. I really don't have an impact.
Well, I don't wanna.
But realistically, let's be honest, I understand court process here. I don't really have an impact other than you're gonna note it, take my name and address, you might give me notice of hearing. This is going forward. So now, what are the risks? Because really, the commission's already decided where they stand on this. This is just a legal process we're going through. So what are the risks to me? And if I decide I really want to do something about this, then what do I do? As a citizen. Because that's what all of us are here
Yeah,
for.
well, I'd like to clarify something I said earlier. The commission has not made a determination on this
Well,
yet.
that's what they're
but-
about to do.
Well, that's what, you know, at the hearing they
To
will.
some extent.
We
But yeah,
we
okay.
still have to prove our case. We still, if we go in there and don't prove it, they're gonna say, no, we're not gonna do that. And that's when your statements about we're concerned might be effective. If we fail, in what we're doing, then they're not gonna grant it. They're not gonna do that. But the risk, again, I represent Mid-Con, and so I'm gonna tell you, the risks are, I think, relatively low, in terms of, I think it's very, almost zero in terms of causing earthquakes in this thing. The pollution on the surface or the fresh treatable water zones, I think, are very minimal too. And not only do you have, your concerns, Mid-Con has, again, a concern about doing anything that would pollute anything. Because once that happens, the liability, you know about class action, that's, some real liability occurs then. And so this thing is potentially set up. This is to make money for everybody. And if you have a significant liability incurred, you're not gonna make money. You're gonna lose all around. And so this is set up in an attempt to avoid that kind of thing happening. So I mean, that may or may not address your.
Well, it does, it answers my question, here's my response to you.
Okay.
It does not make me money because I'm not going to get a check from Mid-Con or anyone sitting in this room. But what it will do ultimately is cost me money when I have to pay for additional insurance coverage, when I have to do home repairs. And that's assuming that the risks, and the only two people bring up are earthquakes and water contamination, none of which I personally can prove directly affect me and my property. So I understand what you're saying, but I almost can guarantee you that at no point will I receive a check from anyone as a result of what we're about.
Are you a surface owner?
If you're assuming property owner, correct.
Well, when you say property, there's
That's,
different levels.
to me, I own my little home on my little 1 acre on Crystal
So
Creek.
you're not sure whether you own the minerals or not?
Oh, I don't own any minerals. I
Okay,
don't.
all right.
I don't. So that's why I say.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And
get-
I don't
get-
disagree with what you're saying, I'm just saying, let's be realistic here. I seriously doubt most of us are gonna make a whole lot of money off of this.
Yeah, and also how much, I mean, another concern besides earthquake and potential water damage or damaging our water supplies, how much water will be taken from our water table? Because I live in a home and all we have is a water well, and every year we lose pressure, so.
How deep is your water well? 200 feet. I mean, normally treatable waters, 400 feet are shallow, and throughout the area. If you have
You
a,
said 3,000, didn't you?
Yeah, we
You're
won't be
not-
taking, the
You
water
won't
we,
be taking the surface.
it's not drinkable water that we'll be, we'd love to use that, but I don't think
You'll
they would
get
let us.
that.
Is there any way y'all can, is there any way y'all can update them maps? I mean, I had a hard time deciphering them because I didn't see no road, you know, like Mustang Road or Sarah Road. I had a hard time
What maps?
deciphering them maps exactly where,
what maps you talking about?
in this packet
Oh,
here.
okay, you talking about things like this?
Yeah, it'd be nice, you know, if you put Mustang Road, Southwest 89th, or, you know, 59th, that way you know, I could have a better idea what's going on, because I had a hard time deciphering, is that Mustang Road, or is that Sarah Road, or, you know, is there any way you can update that map and put the streets and,
We may have to, this is what you do for a legal document.
yeah, but I mean, is there any way you can send us, some there with the streets and all that, so we have more of a perspective as to where what is?
Right, I think we tried to take an aerial photo and then overlay something like this on top of it, so you can.
I think if you don't mind, we're gonna go back and try to answer your question about how many wells.
New wells.
New wells.
Because what the concern there is, since we're all talking about, I mean, not all of us maybe, but, since we all, have our homes out there and we have no royalty, that means that, the road, Mustang Road South, which is an oil and chip road, if there's a lot of drilling activity out there, it can destroy the road. You know, first of all, you know, the earthquake concern or any type of thing like that. But, destruction of, and also the noise of drilling. If they're drilling a well in my backyard and it runs 24 hours a day and it takes X amount of time to do it, then there's another problem, you know. So, that's, the location of new wells and how many is gonna be drilled and what kind would be very important, especially if they're going parallel, because that requires a lot of high, you know, high pressure injection, you know, the fracking.
And you guys know what PSI they shoot that water down at?
They say 2,000, didn't they, on that deal?
I think that would be subject to another, we'd have to get a commission approval, and that's our estimate, but there would be another, you
So
know,
that it may be higher than.
I doubt that it would be higher than that.
That's a maximum.
So that's what they claim creates the earthquakes, is a high pressure injection.
Right, now,
Is that right?
Is that,
Do you agree with that?
I haven't studied the earthquakes a whole lot, but.
I can understand.
We don't have any wells like that, so, from what I've been hearing.
Incrimination.
I can say, Rachel, I've dealt with a lot of disposal wells, and the biggest concern is disposal of wells into the Arbuckle. Now, the pressures in the Arbuckle of the wells I've dealt with have been about 400 pounds.
400 PSI?
Yeah. And that is a.
What about those at Cushion that just shut down? What was the PSI on that?
I don't know, I didn't deal with those, but the Arbuckle, through it, from
Well,
what
I
I've
mean,
seen.
being in the business,
turned
you
into
don't know
power.
you're a geologist?
I'm Land.
Huh?
Land.
Land? Okay. How about, do you know what the PSI is on those injection wells? They, maybe, you know.
I don't. I know that on our injection wells, the commission would not let us inject at a pressure higher than the higher than the pressure that would frack the reservoir, and we wouldn't want that anyway.
Right.
Cause we don't want to create more fractures, cause what happens in a water flood, you don't want your water to go into fractures, cause there's no oil in the fractures, you want the.
What isn't the water washing the oil out to recover?
Yeah, but you
And
want it to
the higher
go.
the pressure, the better, you know, more oil you can wash out, right?
Right, but
So your incentive would be to increase pressure to get more oil recovery,
Well,
right?
the point, if you get too much pressure, you just bypass the oil.
Well, where are you gonna bypass, if you put a packer in your well, how are you gonna bypass?
In the reservoir, it's a sweeping mechanism in the reservoir. And so if you get too much, too much, it's gonna go right by the oil, and leave the oil there. And once you leave it.
But
there,
when you
it's
fill
gone.
it up though and wash it out, right, don't you fill the capacity up and wash it out?
We don't fill, we don't, it's not gonna be filled up to capacity, it will not go back to the pressure originally in the reservoir.
to try to answer your question on, you know, in a perfect, world, you know, rock would have, it'd be almost like sand. You fill a bottle with sand. There's a little bit, you know, something there to hold it together that makes it rock, but it's just full of, and that sand's got all kind of pore space in it. You pour water in it, it fills up all the pore space in the sand. And that's a perfect condition for water flood, because you can, say you filled that sand jar of sand up with oil, and you could push that oil out.
Is
by
the
injecting
Bogark
water.
a sand formation?
Get it a limestone.
It's a limestone?
Yes.
So where they acidize the frac, they used to, years ago, they used to acidize lime, not shoot it for a frac.
Right. So it's a little bit different than lime. So you've got natural fractures lime, but most of the oil is in the pore space.
Right.
And so what you don't want in a water flood is, what you do want in a water flood is your water to go into the pore space, push the oil out. You don't want the water to go through the fractures, because then you just start channeling, you just inject water over here and you get water coming out over here with no oil with it, because it's just going right to those fractures.
Is that a trial?
And that's what we try to avoid.
Sure, if I ask you a groundwater question real quick? I'm more concerned about my water well at the house. Do you have any sort of a map, maybe I missed it in there, that outlines where you're gonna pull the water from, where you're gonna put it back, and then maybe the surrounding wells as to how deep their water source is, so I can see, you know, what are the chances of those interacting with each other, or if you have an issue with your drilling that it could contaminate our groundwater, anything like that?
I can answer part of that. We have identified one place on map like this in your packet. Our initial operations are going to be down in this part of the field. For probably a year before we even do anything up here at all.
Does that have the depths and everything?
Does not, but what we would do is use this one that's in the square box. It's an existing oil well.
Okay.
And we would just cut off the oil and use, and that's where we get our water from. It's from that upper, maybe 3,000 feet elevation.
But you don't know, is that fresh water or?
No, it would not be fresh water.
Okay.
It wouldn't be drinkable water. It might be. Right. I think it's not as salty as what we have in our formation, but it wouldn't be drinkable at all. And at some point we have one, we haven't identified a location yet, but a water supply well up in the north part. Again, that would probably only be a 3,000 foot well, but again,
And then I didn't hear you answer how much water you thought you would have to pull to inject back in, or
it would
at
be,
the lower depths?
I don't have that number on top of my head. Yeah, hold on. This would just be a rough estimate if I can find it.
Does the Water Resources Board have a role in the water use that you're proposing?
Not for the use of the salt water, basically.
So you're pulling non-drinkable water, basically.
Right.
Probably a significant amount, I would guess. I'm venturing a guess. But it's not usable by our wells in theory.
Right.
And
You could not drink it.
okay.
So do I know how many new wells they're going?
Not yet,
Oh.
getting there.
That's what I was looking, there's a exhibit in the packet that it invites.
Thank you.
It identifies each well and how that well.
I was gonna look at
See what's up there, what you got there, what is that?
Oh, this was the list of names, addresses, emails, and whether or not you're protesting. We pass this around if anyone missed it.
Let's see, gonna bore somebody's. Yeah, thank you.
It'd be about 15,000. 15,000. So So the answer, right now we're planning for 15 injection wells, and we injected 1,000 barrels a day into each injection well. That'd be 15,000 barrels a day for the whole field, spread out over the whole field.
And that's not recycling the water you're injecting in, that's pulling from the other source.
No, that would be both. That would be water that we produce and what we pull from the other supply wells.
A lot of water. Yeah.
I think we need to answer this question, how many new wells we think?
Yeah, I've lost my place, but there's a packet in it's gonna look like this.
Thank you.
It's exhibit B to the application, and it's page 3 of exhibit B. I think that's right. Yeah,
Page 3 is three.
yeah, it's gonna be, if you look at, here's a listing of what it is,
Yeah.
and you've got a picture.
So on the far right-hand column of that spreadsheet, it's showing what we're proposing to use, the proposed use.
Okay.
And some of those you'll see new drills.
That's was my question, I didn't know which ones new. Is everyone, all 15 of these injections new? Or are they gonna be in previous plugged wells? You have some wells that are plugged and some that are
Right.
capped.
The injection wells are either gonna be new, or they would be re-entering, not re-entering, but just converting.
So we don't really know at this point which ones will be drilled or which ones will.
Well, this is what we're proposing now, it should say exactly.
Right over here.
And this column shows what the current status of the well is. And if it's a producer, then it could be converted to an injector. And a caveat too is that this is not set in stone, this is what we think the best plan right now is.
Could you exceed the number of wells?
I doubt it, because if you do this plan, then you start getting into the economics of the program. The more money you spend,
I see what you're
so we spend more money than this.
So at a hearing, this proposal may not be exactly
Right.
what will eventually occur.
Yes, if the project got approved by the commission, there would be people who decide to eventually participate, be us, and it could be 5 or 6, 7, 10 other oil companies. They would form a committee and look at what we proposed here. They may say, well, that looks fine.
If they wanted to drill additional to what's listed here, would they have to come back to the corporation commission?
They would not.
They could just drill as many as they wanted.
They could, but be subject to economic limits, which I.
Well, right, that drives everything, bottom line.
Right.
So what's in this right here is basically initial proposal to the court, which the court is then going to approve, correct?
Right, and they'll look at, particularly they'll look at what is proposed to be done, which will be, as we talked about, maybe a little bit, a proposal.
Before we get anything else here. That would be the initial plan.
So this is kind of a basic question, but is this a okay, so here's your proposal, the court approves it, now we're gonna sit down with everybody and kind of finalize the plan, so to speak, and then we're gonna implement plan. So am I looking at a year from now, am I looking at 5 years from now? I mean, is this a 10-year thing, what's the timeline?
I would say this would be about it depends on how long this whole process takes here at the commission, but
Okay.
assuming the commission approved it, maybe a year and a half after that, we'd be still working on this, a year and a half.
Okay.
And then if we got some encouragement from this, then we would expand out. And it may be another 2 years before you even saw anything.
Could you give us a cross breed of where you're talking about?
Yeah, that lower part, where are you talking about?
This is the river. So it used to be just on the north side of the river.
What, like county line?
I think that's the county line is the river. So it'd be just north, it'd be
County
Canadian.
line runs north to south.
He's talking about a road.
No,
Can I-
yeah,
oh,
just
right.
talking about- I think it's Sarah Road.
That's in
is
between
where it looks like
Canadian
to
and
me.
Grady County is what you're talking
Right.
But how far east and west is what we're asking?
There we go. Oh, there you go.
Morgan Road, Mustang Road? That's what.
We can look at them, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, there's 22 active wells there right now, so you guys are probably seeing the wells. I mean, this is an old
Correct.
field.
It
Are they
is.
gonna use?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure
All
I know
the
where this
abandoned
is.
probably
I
have
just
seen
don't
it.
know the.
Some of them, they will be
Width
using
of it.
some of the existing wells.
Some of it really new.
And again, that depends on the results.
Some of them have been plugged for years, you know. Abandoned,
Right.
Plugged.
What time will the hearing be on December 8th, even though we think it's really gonna be January? Do we know?
They'll call the docket at 8:30, just like they did. And if we get everyone's concerns addressed so that nobody's protesting, then the hearing would be sometime on that day. Now, these hearings take a bit of time to put on because we have to go over so much. And so I'm not sure when it would actually occur.
But it's sometime that day. If it's
Yeah.
on the docket for that day, generally, I would
It'll-
think you'll get to it, possibly.
Yes, yes. If again, if it remains protest, it won't be heard that day. And again, and also if we run into other notice issues, we have to notify everybody. And obviously with having over 1,500 people to notify, sometimes you get information as you send notices out, people call in and say, well, I know where Bob is, or I know where Jack is, and here's the address. And so it becomes fluid, and it's been kind of fluid, right now. And so it may get continued again, not because of the protest, because of notice, or maybe a combination of the two.
Is there any way we can find that out, so we don't have to make a
You
long
can-
track
you-
from Mustang into here?
Yeah, you can call my office.
Is that on here?
It is on there. If you look at the, you got the notice of hearing right there, if you turn to the last page of that notice of hearing, not the whole thing. That notice of hearing is the first document. It's about a 5-page document. Go back to the front.
Short question while you're looking. This
16.
may be the right person to address, but
7,
in regard to property values, is it necessary if you're selling your land to disclose that this is going on?
On the left hand.
If
For
you're selling-
most of that, it's.
You know, I'll leave that up to you.
I don't know.
I meant legal. We're not attorneys.
If you're asked directly, I'd say respond. Accurately. If you're asked directly, respond directly. If you're selling the surface of your land, and that's all you own, from a legal standpoint, the surface is subservient to the mineral. The mineral interest is the dominant from a theory standpoint. And therefore, people can, if you own just the surface, you always have the risk that somebody's gonna come in and drill a well on your property. Now, that's sort of the old general concept. A few decades ago, the Oklahoma legislature said, well, we don't like that. And so they put in something called the Surface Damage Act, which kind of brought the power of the surface estate up, so that if I'm gonna move in to drill a well on somebody's tract who owns just the surface, I can't just come in and do that. I've gotta go to that person and try to negotiate settlement of damages, and if we can't do that, I gotta pay the money into a court, I gotta file an action.
See,
I'm
was
gonna
that
come in
December
and
the 8th,
drill the
the
well.
next
And so
one?
there's some protection from the surface owner. Now, whether you disclose this as pending,
We just
I'll let them know. That's up to you.
Okay, take time, okay.
Except they didn't put it into it. If you didn't, they had to still go to court. If you say, well, you're not coming on my property and drill, you don't own the mineral, then you try to negotiate damages with them.
Right, but now there's actually a statute that codifies all that, and does, it gives the surface owner more protection.
Yes.
I have a question along those lines. Article 8 here, easements or use of surface.
Yeah.
And I'd like to know how this changes what exists if this doesn't go through. What does this change? It says grant of easement. The parties hereto, to the extent of their rights and interests, hereby grant to the lessees the right to use as much of the surface of the land within the unit area as may be reasonably necessary for unit operations.
When the unit is created, we have the right to go anywhere on the tract for development purposes. But I think that's subject also to the surface damage act. So I think we have an easement to go on there, but we may have,
This says that I grant you that easement. How do I not grant you that easement? By protesting? Or you are?
If the unit is approved, we have the right to go on any place on the unit.
No, I didn't personally grant that. That's just.
The same concept applies to the 80-acre units that are out there right now. If somebody wanted to drill on an 80-acre unit, they could go anywhere on that 80-acre tract and drill a well because of that unit.
Right, so what I'm asking is, how does this change what exists now?
If that's approved, we get to go anywhere on the unit to drill a well.
Because you're now the unit, rather than a particular.
Well, yeah, and that's right. I mean, but that really doesn't change much.
Yeah, but
because
the
they
way
have
it's stated there, that we're granting you something, we don't have it to grant.
If the commission approves this, then we're
Commission
granted that
grants it.
right.
If the commission grants it, we don't grant it.
Well, if you want to object to it on that basis, you know.
That doesn't mean we don't have to pay
right?
damages, we
Yeah.
still have to pay damages.
This is the unit,
That's the unit
and
next.
these are the boundary lines, so can you go, I mean, this is the proposed unit, correct? And the unitization is the